Okay.
1, 2.
We're ready.
All right.
I feel like we can trust somebody.
We're back at L3 Media Studio, where creators come to create. They have great conversations, podcasting, and storytelling. Today's no different. We have a very, very award-winning special guest in the studio today that we look forward to introducing. Award-winning filmmaker, author, and has 30 years of healthcare leadership experience and also PR. But we have Eddrick Jerome. But before we dive into the conversation, I do want to toss it over to Cam. But I look forward to today's guest and our conversation that we're about to have.
So as you guys know, like, share, subscribe, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. But also this episode today is sponsored by Elevare Global. It is the premier community that you need to go to if you want to learn about branding, optimization, and leadership. The link's going to be down in the caption, but check it out. There's a 7-day free trial for watching this podcast episode. And when you go to it, you can try it out. And if you love it, which you will, we'll see you there.
Eddrick Jerome.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you for
Welcome
the invitation.
to the Thunderdome.
Yeah, man.
I know this, as I was just kind of sharing with you, like this conversation well long overdue, but as we mentioned, you know, timing is everything,
Exactly.
and things happen for a reason, and the timing is just even more important. But just very grateful to have you in seat, to be able to kind of hear more about your story and your past and the big why behind why you do what you do.
Sure.
But I do want to start off with a quote I came across, and, you know, regarding like filming and art, right? So your background in PR and all of that.
Yeah.
But it talks about stories, right? And it says stories are not just to entertain us. They heal us, they challenge us, right? And they even at times will help us to change policy. And so I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
That's true. Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me in a beautiful, beautiful studio. As I said, you guys are first rate, man, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys today. Storytelling is everything, man. I mean, you go back to when you were a kid and tell me a story. You know, if you can tell a story in a way that touches people and affects people, it really makes a difference. It can make a difference in their lives. You can have a great film with fantastic cast, and you can have all kinds of bells and whistles and special effects, but if the story is garbage,
Oh, yeah. It's like, meh.
right. Flip side, you can take a story and 2 people in a room and act, and if that story is amazing, people will just they'll forget all the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, storytelling is everything, man. It really is.
Well, was it something in your life or a career or a pivotal moment where, you know, that was a highlight to you for you to kind of like go into that direction to want to be a filmmaker and, you know, and highlight stories?
Yeah. The seed was planted when I was in elementary school. And my 4th grade teacher, the late Laverne Reed, who was just an amazing woman. She was really the perfect elementary school teacher. And I was writing the story I wrote about. I think it was about a clown car, something I wrote a story about. Well, my auntie did her hair, right? And she went and told my auntie about this story that I had written. And so my auntie one Saturday called me over, and there are all these women in there getting their hair done. And she said, you know, baby, I want you to read the story. I was about 8, 9. And I read it, and they were laughing. And so that was kind of like when I really first started figuring this out, that, okay. I didn't get into the creative and filmmaking space until much later, a few years, ago, where I got a chance to. I wrote a short story, and then we turned it into a play, and then COVID hit, and that's how Blue Eyeshadow came to be. So, as you mentioned, I had a career in healthcare prior to that, but that was when it really first kind of crystallized in my head that the power of storytelling and how you can literally move people and affect them with just the words that you write and create.
Have you ever, so like, people take personality tests, and, one of the things that a lot of people aren't cognizant of is that the results will be different based off where you are
Exactly.
in life and,
Exactly.
and where you are mentally. Is there a time where you saw a film or wrote a film, whichever, and when you watched Saul, thought of it later on, you had a completely different perspective than the first time?
Yeah, even with Blue Eyeshadow, so the way Blue Eyeshadow came to be was it started out as a short story. Shout out to the Writers Resource Center in Northern California. That was a group of writers who would get together in Fairfield every week and talk, or once a month, and talk about writing and storytelling.
Oh,
and
that's
so
cool.
we were.
Are they still doing that?
It's a different branding now, but yes, they are still doing it. I think they actually have one coming up every second Saturday. I think they meet downtown in the building where the library is in Fairfield.
That's cool.
I don't know if some of the same people who were there when I was there are still there. And so we were putting together this anthology of short stories and poems. And I had 2 stories that they had accepted that was in that anthology, Melange, Musings on Life from a Writer's Pen, which you can still get on Amazon.
What's an anthology?
And so it's a group of stories and short stories and poems where it's like a collective of everybody that was part of that group, that writers group.
That's cool.
So the editor, Wanda at the time, said, I need, do you have another story? And I was like, well, I can come up with something. So I went home and I wrote Blue Eyeshadow in about 3 hours. Literally, I wrote it in about 3 hours. It was just flowed through me. But it was so personal that I shared it with my wife. I said, well, is this something I really want to put out there? And she said, absolutely, you got to share the story. So from there, it became, and it got published in the book, got a lot of good response. And then I had an opportunity to turn it into a stage play with some help from Sandra Varner from Varner PR. And Terrence Ivory, who's a lot of folks know Terrence Ivory. He's from here in Fairfield. Amazing talent, director, stage play director, actor. And I said, Terrence, could this be a one-man show? And he said, yeah, and I have the perfect actor. And that's how I met Lamont Young from down in L.A. And so we did Blue Eyeshadow on the stage. Sandra Varner, who had a relationship with the Berkeley Rep, right next door, there's like a little theater workshop spot next door, the Bakery School of Theater. And we performed it, and it went well. And that's where we were headed until COVID hit. And she actually had set it up. We were going to, because the story revolves around the relationship with my brother when we were kids. And ultimately, it's just a way to raise awareness about HIV and AIDS, right? And she was working her magic, and we actually were on track to perform it during the International AIDS Conference, which was going to be in San Francisco that year.
Okay. And
then COVID hit. And we had to regroup, and that's when we decided to turn it into a short film. Okay. And so we shot it down in Burbank, and that's how it came to be. So, yeah, that was, I guess, kind of the moment when I knew I could do this.
Yeah. So Blue Eyeshadow you wrote in 3 hours. As a writer, like, how do you get into like that zone? How do you get into that creative process to be able to knock something out? I mean, clearly, you have accolades to show for it that ties into.
Sure.
But so how do you get into that zone where it's not just a piece that you're writing versus an award level piece? Yeah. Well,
there's the subject that you're writing, or the script or the play that you're writing, and then there's the craft of writing. And I learned some really good tips in that Writers Resource Center, those working with other writers. I'm a morning person. I'm usually up 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'm up, and because there's just something about being up when the sun comes up, from a creative standpoint. And so that morning, it just flowed through me. And I you can't always know when you're going to be inspired to write something, or when people are going to, it's really going to be a good piece of literature. But you just know it. There's a feeling, and knowing when you're most creative and when you're not. I'm most creative in the mornings. I'm not an evening person, so in the evening time, I don't really write at that time. But 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. Man, that's when my creative juices flow.
Do you feel like writing, because you worked in healthcare?
I did.
A lot going on there.
A lot going on.
Do you feel like writing almost helped you, like, release, like mentally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Healthcare is a very stressful occupation. And I'm not just talking about for physicians and clinic administrators and executives, even the folks who are, the very important people who are the medical assistants and nurses and all of those folks. And so you have to have that release and you have to have that outlet to get away from it because, healthcare is such an emotional business.
Yeah.
It can drain you. It literally can drain you. So,
can you tell us tell us about some of the projects that you've been a part of, whether you directly were the writer behind it, that you feel still connected to this day.
So we have the creative team behind Blue Eyeshadow was myself. I have 3 Mel LLC. That's my company that I use. Powerhouse Inc. Productions, which is Lamont Young, who's the star of Blue Eyeshadow, and Terrence Ivory has Ivory Arts. He along his very talented wife Rhonda, and so we're kind of a collective. And we had some success with Blue Eyeshadow, and we literally just have another project that's just kind of getting into the film festival circuit now. It's a movie that Terrence wrote titled "In the Midst of Them." You can go to ivoryarts.com and get all the information. And we were just at the Sacramento Film Festival 2 weeks ago. It's an amazing story, but it's that collective coming together. So I'm very proud to be associate producer of that project because it's a period piece. It's about 1940s in Virginia, coal mining, but it's a sci-fi, right? It's got sci-fi elements. And Terrence, he's already got 3 movies down the road, or he's writing it. I mean, it's literally the first chapter. He's got an original song in it. It's just an amazing piece of work. So I'm really proud of that one. And we're just getting going on the film festival circuit. We've been in 2 so far, and hopefully we'll be in more. And then obviously the stage play, Raised in Hell, the play starring Dion Price, which Dion, again, a local gentleman from here in Fairfield, just an amazing creative person. This was based on his book, Raised in Hell, which is about him overcoming some really challenging odds and obstacles when he was a kid, with a foster system and alcoholic mom, but he used all of that and channeled it into becoming just a really great person, where he helps young kids, he mentors young men, he gives back, he teaches life skills, and he's very funny. He's a former stand-up comic, so the play is funny. So over the years, we would kind of work. I helped him with some of this because the book was written. I just kind of came in as a script consultant producer to help him get it ready for the stage, right? And then we were fortunate enough to bring on Dr. Tia Madison as a director. And we performed it at Napa Valley College back in February. And we're slated, the next performance is going to be October 21st at the Marsh in Berkeley. So we're working on that piece. But we had the foresight to film it when we did it at the Napa Valley College. And so we've taken that and created some shorts and submitted those to film festivals. And we just got in a couple as well. So
nice.
And then there's another documentary that I've just got a call about, based on some creative folks in Richmond that I don't want to get into yet because we're actually meeting Saturday to go over some of that. So it's starting to, people are starting to seek me out for helping putting things together.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how did the podcast come to be?
Okay, long story.
Because you're on episode, I mean,
about 100,
right?
I've got about 115, 116 in the can.
I mean, that's
yeah.
You're the 90. You're in the 1%er club.
Yeah.
When it comes to podcasts.
Yeah. Well, as you guys know, once you get the recipe, of how to produce and then the rest is just you just crank them out. But the way I got into this was years ago. I was writing and I did my first foray into radio was on More Public Radio out of Oakland. Prentice and Gene Woods, right down there in the studio was on 18th and Jefferson in Oakland. And I did a show with, at that time her name was Ursula Gomez. We did the New Power Hour, which was we played Prince music, right?
Okay.
Friday nights at 10 o'clock.
We're going to talk about Prince too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And so we were doing the show and we were getting people calling from Toronto, all over the place, because I'm a Prince fan, but I'm not a popular music type of Prince fan. I like the Prince music that nobody's really heard of,
Yeah.
rehearsal stuff, all that kind of stuff. The underground kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we were doing the show, and so one day, Mr. Woods came up and said, I like the way you sound on the radio, and I was writing for the Globe newspaper, which was out of East Bay. And he said, have you ever thought about doing a community-based? We're looking for somebody to do a community-based kind of radio show, interview show. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
So we called it was the Richmond Community Hour from Richmond, California.
Yeah.
Did that for a couple of weeks, and he said, maybe you can go back, and we pitched it to the Globe newspaper, and it turned into the Globe Newspaper Hour. And I would interview people on the radio, and that's how that got started. So I loved interviewing people for that. Meanwhile, I met Sandra Varner at the Globe newspaper, and she was able to bring on and help me select guests and find people who were in town and this and that. So that's kind of how my interview style kind of started. And then once the Globe ceased to exist, I rebranded to Viewpoint on More Public Radio and did that for a few years. Okay. And then finally, once that ended, I finished up doing, I started the Eddrick Show about 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you talk about, was it hard for you to make the decision to rebrand? Because there's the reason why I asked too, because there are a lot of folks in business who, will create something, right, and have this title of something, and then life will shake itself out, whether it's a partnership or whatever the case is, challenges. And then I found there are a lot of people who struggle with making the decision to actually rebrand, or just sticking to the brand that, was with the other partners who are no longer there. So for you, what was that experience like?
Well, two things. One, the Globe newspaper ceased to exist, so I couldn't do the Globe newspaper hour anymore. And then also More Public Radio had kind of was petering out a little bit. And so I wanted to continue to do an interview show, and so that's why I just said, well, okay, let me rebrand to Viewpoint. And that's kind of how that happened. So sometimes it's not, you can't control when you have to rebrand, but you have to be confident enough to make the decision to rebrand, because sometimes that's growth and an opportunity.
Gotcha. Do you feel that your experience in healthcare and navigating through, your leadership and PR equipped you to make those quick decisions like that?
Yeah. It's actually something I've really drummed into my daughters, is that the worst thing you can do is not make a decision. Sometimes you just have to make the decision. You just have to, and then once you make your decision, you go on. Right. You can't. They call it paralysis by analysis, right? And that's true. I live that in healthcare on almost a daily basis. So you can't be scared to make a decision, because people say, well, if I make a decision, then this might happen. You just have to make the decision and keep it moving.
Yeah, and I think that we noticed that working with businesses is, and we continuously say this, is not a lack of information.
Right.
It's 2025.
Right.
There's pretty much nothing that you can. I mean, I can get almost any book for free right now.
Exactly.
Online.
Exactly.
But it all comes down to how are you stopping yourself from actually doing the things in the moment, right? Because so many people are afraid of failure.
Yeah.
Or that it's not going to turn out exactly how they thought it was going to, and it's that's a part of life, man.
Exactly.
And I think, I was talking to my mom the other day, and we were talking about kind of the helicopter parenting thing, and she was saying that she read an article about how that was, that happened because of latchkey kids, and what happened is the latchkey kids, and I'm a latchkey kid. I had a single mom growing up in the Bay Area. I rode BART by myself at 10 years old. It's not a big deal. And but it's because of all the things that they did while they were latchkey kids. And so now they're oh, I know what you're going to be doing if I'm not watching you type stuff.
Right.
And so now it's created this, a lot of adults who are unable to make decisions because they weren't really given the opportunity to fail.
Yeah.
Or to make a mistake,
Yeah.
I try and stay very cognizant with my kids about that is, they'll be like, oh, well, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, okay. And you're what do you think? I'm like, I don't know. What do you think?
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, is it going to hurt?
Right.
Well, I don't know. We should find out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stuff, and when they do something, I'm like, hey, well, now if you do it again, now you're just you're being dumb.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it's teaching them to trust their intuition.
yeah,
You know, if you're not in tune with your intuition, then who will be?
yeah,
And having that confidence. And so, especially with kids, you have to let them walk and you have to let them try things and bang their head and, you know, because there's no growth and development. And then when they are disappointed, they won't know how to handle it. Right. So you have to teach, you know, your kids how to be part of the world, man.
Yeah.
And there's going to be failure. So
when you're writing stuff, do you ever second guess like what you've written?
oh yeah, all the time.
And like, how do you get over, like, how do you like talk yourself through that?
You step back, put it away, and come back to it. And
Don't look at me.
yeah. well, writing and whether you're writing for the stage or a play or writing a book or whatever you're writing, even, you know, I kept a journal for a long time. My journal's like 600 pages, right? Because you writing is such an in the moment thing. But, you know, it's also a very personal and vulnerable situation. You know, some of the best writing is you open yourself up to criticism, which nobody likes to do. Yeah. And so, like I said, with Blue Eye Shadow, when I wrote it, the first thing was like, well, I can't put this up. But then my wife, you know, said, no. You've got to share this story. Because yeah, you can, if you write a whole bunch of stuff and never show it to anybody, then why are you writing it? You know, I mean, literally, why are you creating something if you don't want to share it with the world and be ready for the feedback? You know,
There's our friend Billy gave us this book. He did a men's circle conference 2 years ago, and so we were gifted the first of its kind. But it's a journal, but every day it breaks down like a certain process, or you have to. There's a not just a prompt, but there's like, and the premise is that you gift it to your son in the future.
wow.
So you go through these exercises for an entire year, you know, emotional, mental, physical, all these things, right? And the premise is that like, hey, like this was a year of my life that I want to share with you, so that I can offer, you know, like guidance in a way, but also perspective.
Yeah.
So I have it in the office. I'll show you after this.
Oh yeah,
I
let's
told
see
Billy
it,
I was
man.
going to do it for this next year.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, well, it's being in tune with just trying to find out who you are and going internal and learning about yourself. Because that's the only way you're going to be able to teach and, you know, look, this is what I did and this is how I handle it. But like to that point, one of the things, my daughter's 20, she'll be 21 in another couple of weeks. And I tell her, you know, my experience, you know, I'm Gen X, right? So I don't know what it's like to be a 21-year-old African-American young lady in 2025. I can't relate to that. Right. So some of the ways that when I was 20, some of the things that we had to go through, actually, you know, picking up the phone and calling, are you hiring? You know, and that kind of like back in the day, right? I mean, you had to do that.
Right.
It's just a different world. So all you can give your children, your peers, whoever is experienced that you have, but understanding their context is different than your context. Yeah. And I think, you know, people get, how come you're not, you know, well, it's a different ballgame.
It's a different world.
Yeah.
Totally different world. Right.
No, you give a very good perspective on that, just from parenting, right? Like you have so many folks that are trying to, you know, from the outside looking in, say, hey, this is what you should do. But the reality of it, like you mentioned, like I navigated that life at 20 versus, you know, fast forward X amount of years. Yeah. It's a different world. Yeah. Right. Like you have to pivot, you have to adjust, you have to do so many things. Yeah, it's interesting.
How do you show somebody like my daughter? It's like, really, they have no concept of what a channel is because now everything's on YouTube TV or whatever.
That's right.
We had Channel 3, Channel 7, what's that? You know, it's a channel. It's where you used to go and actually get ABC. Well, no, you just go to the app. Right. You know, it's just, you have to be conscious of that as older adults because the world is just so much different now.
Yeah. I was talking to someone yesterday and they said, oh, I'm going to build software. And I was like app? Or well, and I was telling him, I was like, when I think software, I think on the computer. Yeah. Like, you know, when I think app, I think of my phone. Exactly. But I know now they're starting to become you know, because now it's, you go to the app store on your computer. Right. And you download an app for your, and I'm like, no, an app is for your phone. And a program or software is for your computer. No, I mean, and that's like, a lot of the things we talk about too when we talk to businesses or even like podcasting, right? Like, COVID in particular, like blew up a lot of people's channels.
It did.
And, we went to Atlanta recently, and one of the things that I appreciated about one of the presenters is she straight up said that. She said, look, I was going to get on the stage and tell you guys like, okay, here's how I did it. And realistically, I would be lying to you because COVID really helped me. Like, granted, I was in a position to be helped.
Yep.
So I can give you that initial step, right?
Exactly.
But if I'm going to be honest with you and tell you what's going to help you today, that recipe is completely different. And I think, it's a mix of having perspective, but then also being realistic.
Right.
And that's like in business or kind of what you're trying to build. We do that when we like consult people about their shows and like, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Like, I was talking to one of our clients the other day, and she said, "Oh, I want a show kind of like Oprah." And I said, "Okay." Oprah built her show in the early '90s,
right?
When
the '80s, actually.
In the '80s, yeah.
Right.
I mean, it started in the '80s,
Yeah.
got huge, even bigger in the '90s. Like, that is a bad model to follow. And my other premise is like, what's your brand?
Right.
What do you talk about?
Right.
And that's a good question. And I said, so girl, you want to be Oprah, but you don't, like, and that's one of the things I think we need to be cognizant of as we go through, especially with how fast information is changing.
Right.
What worked last year it doesn't even work this year anymore. Especially when it comes from a business or marketing standpoint.
Yeah, that Oprah example is perfect because Oprah didn't compete with 18,000 other podcasts.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. She got a show, and it was like there might be three other shows.
Exactly. Sally Jesse Raphael back in the day, you had this certain one, Phil Donahue. So the model was there, but it was a handful of people.
Correct.
Whereas today, even like I said, going back to the TV analogy, who's watching literally talk shows? I mean, you got a few that are on television, syndicated television, but most people now, they're on YouTube or they're on getting podcasts in other areas.
People watching podcasts on YouTube is becoming increasingly more and more popular.
Yeah.
Like, that's a metric you really have to like pay attention to now,
right?
With the apps on the TVs and stuff.
Yeah, we were doing some research for Lamont Young, my production partner, because he's got some other projects that we're going to be talking. He's got a comedy show that's insane, and so we were putting together a little plan for him, and that's what some of the research I was showing is that not only do people watch YouTube, but most people watch YouTube on their phone. So visually, and you have to be able to pop on the phone, because people are sitting there, they're wherever they are, or on a tablet, and so it's just a different mindset now of how people get their entertainment, and the ways you have to structure your whatever you're putting out there so that people can get it where they are.
Yeah. So while we're on podcasting, right? Like, so you have the recipe, right? So I have well over 100 and you said 15?
About 115 out there. I've got a few more in the can, but yeah.
Gotcha. So over 115 episodes. Can you tell us about the Eddrick Show?
Well, my tagline is intelligent conversation with interesting people. And because I like having a conversation, kind of like you guys when we were getting ready to come on, I appreciate the approach you guys take because it is about having a conversation. My brand is I literally can talk to anybody from anywhere. So over the years, I've talked to molecular biologists, I've talked to actors, entertainers, world leaders, people from MIT, Harvard. I've been able to talk to some of the leading experts in a given field in the world. But I also have a local bent. I like having on local folks. I've had quite a few people here in the local community on the show as well, because I think personally, you kind of have to have a local foothold before you go, right? And vice versa. So my show is about just having a conversation with people, getting them to open up about and learning some things. I learn when I talk to folks. There's just this whole thing about mRNA and vaccines and all whatever. We're not getting into all of that. But I literally had one of the leading writers about mRNA vaccines on my show last year, talking about how this came to be and how things are. And so I learned. And so the other piece to my show is having access to people that may or may not be I don't get into like the arguments and the what's happening, the popular kind of stuff now, and are you talking about this subject? Because most people do that for clicks and whatever, and that's why I think my burn is so slow, because I'm about the quality of the work and the interviews that I have. You go back and look at all of my interviews, you'll see I like to think there's quality interviews with quality people. So my brand is that conversation, learning, letting the guests share who they are, and hopefully you learn something. And I've developed relationships with publicists, and I shout out to Alyssa Warren, who's a publicist, great publicist on the East Coast, but she's been feeding me some of these world leaders and some of these people who are doing things, and some of the best feedback I've gotten from her is, because authors and writers, they do these book tours, and
for sure,
usually the publicist will send out the questions. I throw all that away. I don't even do that, man. I'm on my own questions because it engages them. By the 15th podcast, so tell me about, they've already been asked that question 15 times, and so you want to make it a little different so that they feel more engaged. So she's giving me the feedback that the authors really appreciate my approach, because it's interesting. Right. It gets them to think about what they have to say. And
I agree. I think that approach is, I feel like it is definitely us. And we wanted to make sure that as we had guests on, that we continue to be who we were. Right. And make the minor adjustments and grow, within the industry. But that's something that's very important to us. Yeah. And something that I've heard throughout the 30 minutes or so of us kind of conversing, and I want to get both of you guys' take on it. I constantly hear what is interpreted in my mind is the power of community, the power of relationships, right? Like, you started off, giving shots out to folks, and some of your writers, your partners, your community, right? And so I'm very interested to hear either an example, a story, or of why not trying to travel through the road of success alone versus finding and building a community of folks to do life with and travel that road with those folks. Like, I would like to kind of hear you guys' thoughts or perspective or feedback from either what you've experienced or what you've seen.
Sure.
You first.
Okay.
We talked about this before you got here. Funny enough.
Yeah. Well, you gotta have a team of people that you can rely on, partners, collaborators, folks that you can trust, who can give you constructive criticism, even when it's painful to receive. You have to have that, because otherwise, that's how you get to your truth. I think my career in healthcare, as a started out supervisor and then manager and then clinical director and area administrator and all that kind of stuff. I was able always to build trust. I have great communication with the folks, because literally your success is dependent on the people around you. Great quarterbacks are great quarterbacks, but the offensive line is terrible. They're not going to be great quarterbacks, right? Yeah. So you have to have the right people in place and have that communication and being able to. People need to know exactly where you are at any given moment, right? And that just comes with communication, being honest, your integrity, all of that. And I always prided myself on doing that, because I had, seasoned physicians that I had to work with and manage. I had, techs and interns, all that stuff. Yeah. So you have to be able to communicate. Also, as a team, you got to know, well, why are you playing the game? What's the goal? What are you trying to do here? How do you interpret the goals that you're set? Because, great managers, directors, they also have to be able to communicate up. Yeah. You have a boss, so you have to be able to take the goals of the organization and blend them all down to that people can accept them, understand them, and then drive people to get to that goal. And so I've always kind of had that. I played basketball in high school, so I was a point guard. So I've always had that, being able to distribute and let people shine, and you take the basket, and it's an easy basket over there, because we're all going to win, right? Eventually. So to your question, you have to be able to find that core group of people. And real quick, conversely to that, you got to know who you shouldn't have in your circle. For sure. Right? Right. I don't think so. Right. No, this is not going to work. I need to not have you here.
Right.
So,
yeah.
and that's always hard too.
Yeah, and I actually think a lot of people don't ask that question. Like, we'll focus on, this is what the people that I want look like in my circle, but we don't talk about the other piece of that, like what the person doesn't look like.
Exactly.
Right. What characteristics do we not, want to have? So
yeah. So the consistent phrase that I always use, especially when I talk about this, is I would rather have 50% of something than 100% of nothing.
Yep.
And that's because I like when we started this company, like I started it, and then I was like, I want to do this by myself, and so I was like, Glenn, come in here and like take half this. But we had worked together already enough to where I knew like it was value add across the board, right? And and I don't do that. I haven't done that with anybody since.
And you trust him. You guys have a trust and a bond, right?
And there's a trust there that it's. I think almost people don't understand how it works so well. Yeah. And it's like a lot of that is we've had tough conversations. Like we've been very transparent about like expectations and what our families spend time together, and we call the BS on each other.
Yeah,
you
have to do that. Yeah.
And I've also in turn had to remove non-productive relationships, especially within I would say the last 2 years, which is different for me because I didn't really have a lot of relationships throughout my life because I went to 13 different schools growing up. And so I like mentally, and then I joined the military. So it was like, hey, I'm here for a short time, not a long time.
Right. You're always a new person.
I'm always, I was literally always,
Yeah.
And so, and interestingly enough, the people that I eventually decided to, relinquish my relationships with were my two standing longest friends in my entire life. Probably 2 decades of friendship. But that was because realistically, neither party no longer served any value. And some people were like, oh, but like the value of friendship. And it's like, that value wasn't even necessarily there anyways, because one, we weren't really spending valuable time together.
Right.
And in one instance, there was actually a breach of respect for like my values. And at that point, I'm like, okay, we've known each other way too long. Like, and we're way too old for you to think this is okay behavior. Yeah. But that's something a lot of people, like G was saying, people don't want to talk about is like, what do my people look like and what do they not look like? Right. And what, like we had a conversation about 2 weeks ago, and one of the things we talked about was like, if we're not talking business, then more than likely we just don't talk very much. Like we're like, we may be acquaintances, but like my friends, like we talk business. Yeah. And the person we were talking to was like, so everything's just a business transaction? It's like, that's not what we said. Right. We said that the people that we surround ourselves with, we talk about business, we talk about finances, we talk about building together. And so if I'm not building with you, then I have no reason to be around you consistently all the time. Yeah. And, and that was like, it was funny because, then she's like, what about you? And I was like, I'm with him. Like, that we're on that same, that's where we're at. Yeah. And I think a lot of times people, you have to sit back and understand, well, where am I going and what does that require? Yeah. I just had experience like that with Terrence Ivory and Ivory Arts and with Lamont from Powerhouse Productions and with my company. We were at the SAC Film Festival and we had a great session. People loved the film. It was a lot of great feedback. And so afterwards we went to go get something to eat, and we were like, okay, now we know that when we come together, we can make things happen. And so now we're in the process of formalizing that. Yeah. And Terrence, to his credit and his vision, he said, well, let's put it on a napkin. Let's put some aspirational things and what we want to do. And we all signed it. And so we wrote down our goals and what we want to do. And then we all signed it. And so I have a picture of them, That's so nice. Because you have to manifest it and of course put some structure to it. Yep. But to your point, it's being able and the power to say no, and the power to give people feedback or tell somebody that this ain't happening. Right. Yeah. That is one of the best skills you'll ever learn. Years and years and years ago, when I was just starting out as a manager, Kaiser flew us to this management seminar, and at that time it was the CEO of Shell Oil in Canada. And he got up and he said, you're going to hear a lot of people talking and a lot of people this and that. He said, the only advice I'm going to give you is this: being a leader is being able to stand up in front of a room full of people and piss them off.
If you're not willing to do that, then you'll never succeed as a leader.
Yeah.
Because it's not about being liked. Right. It's about making sure things happen and being transparent. And that stuck with me as a young leader. Not that you want to go around pissing everybody off.
Right.
But
well, it's like being a parent. I'm not your friend. I'm here to teach you how to survive.
Exactly.
And obviously I'm not going to be mean to you all the time, but I also am not going to have my feelings hurt if you don't like the things that I tell you or advise you to do.
Right.
I'm just trying to help you to be a great human.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's
he won't say it, but he's mad at me all the time.
He's mad at you? Oh man, no. So you had mentioned Prince earlier.
Oh yeah, man. That's yeah.
Where does that relation, or what is that the thought, what birthed that?
Well, Prince is my creative muse, right? Okay. I mean, literally, I remember first hearing his music and just saying, well, this sounds different. And what is it? And what is this? And then you saw the visual and he's like, okay, what is that? But I got a chance to see him live. And now I'm a Prince. I saw him 18 times live.
Gotcha.
Holy.
Yeah, I'm one of those.
You're a fan.
I'm a fan. The power of his creative musical ability was like nothing I'd ever seen before. And with Prince, what people fail to realize is that underneath the pearls and the lipstick and all that stuff, he's really talking about stuff, man. He's really putting it out there about, oligarchs and you name it. And the other thing people miss about Prince, I was raised Southern Baptist, and there are a lot of similarities and motifs in Prince's music that came from the Black church. If you listen to the song, most people remember the song Purple Rain, but they don't know that song also, I Would Die For You. Well, the lyrics, I'm not a woman, I'm not a man, I'm something you never understand. I never beat you, I'll never lie, but if you're evil, I forgive you by and by because he's talking about Jesus Christ. And people miss that about him. So a lot of that stuff came together. It was funky. There was this whole secretive thing. Who was this guy? And so I just...
The mystery.
Yeah. but a lot of, again, people, they know the Purple Rain and they know some of his biggest hits. But if you're a fan like I am and you're into the underground stuff and the collector and all this and that, there's some... He talked about things 30 years ago that are so relevant today. He was at the forefront of this digital download music thing. I mean, he really was. He talked about how the internet was going to change how people interact with each other. He talked about that 30 years ago. Some people believe, and you can go back and look at his album covers, that even the way people text message now, if you go back and look at some of his albums, the way he was writing, the to and the you and all that shorthand kind of stuff, kind of was a forerunner to text messaging, the way we write today. So he was, there are very few artists who come along who are such visionaries, so powerful in what they do, so confident in what they do. And he was just one of those guys. And my wife and I, because she's a fan too, we made sure we took our kids to see him when they were young to witness this guy, because there'll never be anybody else like him again. And but yeah, he had something to say, man. And I challenge folks, if you're a Prince fan, or even if you're not a Prince fan, if you listen to his music, don't just listen to the music. Pull up Google and search the lyrics and read what he's actually talking about, because you're going to see that he was way ahead of the game, man, and you can really learn a lot from him.
Got you.
Yeah.
As a having a family, how has the experiences that you guys experienced as a family shaped the man you are today?
In a lot of ways. Growing up, it was just me and my brother. My brother passed away in 95, but so I didn't have any sisters, right? But then when my wife and I, we had our two daughters, now I have girls, and which was amazing and phenomenal. And so having a family is just, I don't know. The man I am today is because of my family, right? And going through that process of seeing someone, this little baby that, I remember when my first daughter was born, and you try to be tough. You're in the room and everything. You man up. And then once everything was over and the baby was out and then got to hold it and clean it. So I was walking down the hallway with my dad, and I just collapsed and started bawling in his arms. Like it was so overwhelming. Just the beauty of having this person come out of, now he's not come out of nowhere, but you know what I mean? It's like all of a sudden you have these precious, precious, precious gifts that it changes everything. It changes your whole perspective on life. It changes your perspective on, how you move. It changes your finances, obviously. So a family can definitely ground you, and you don't take it for granted. You just don't. And I loved being a dad. I do. Yeah. And a husband. And it's just you can't buy that, man. It's just that feeling inside. Sure. You guys have kids, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's just that feeling. Yeah. It just makes you feel, you just feel a different kind of connectedness to the world.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing.
So my last question, today's 9/11.
Yeah.
Where were you?
I have a 9/11 story that's going to blow you away. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. So I was working for Kaiser Permanente at the time. At that time, I was in optical services. We had the optical lab where we made all the eyeglasses for Northern California. So literally on the 10th, we had flown to Clearwater, Florida, because Essilor, which was a major lens manufacturer, was teaching us how to process this new lens, right?
Yeah.
So I was in Clearwater, Florida. We were at Essilor University where they were teaching us this stuff. And lo and behold, that morning we're sitting there in class and somebody says, look at the TV. And that's when the first plane had hit. So remember, I'm on the East Coast, so it's like 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then the second plane hit. So we're like, okay, what is this? And then we're hearing the airports are shut down and all this and that. So later on that afternoon, we were all like, okay, what are we going to do? Because obviously I wasn't going to go back and learn about processing a lens. I had to get back to my family, right?
Of course, yeah.
So what do? No planes. So 10:30 that night, I'm calling, trying to figure out how to get home. And there's a very special place in hell for some of these rental car companies because they were charging $1,000 cash deposits to rent a car.
Oh, I bet.
At that time.
Because they knew.
Exactly.
They knew.
Which obviously we weren't going to be able to come up with that. So finally I called, and I said, well, Amtrak. And it took me 3 chances. I called and I got a ticket, one of the last tickets. Their ridership was up 700% during that time.
Oh, I bet.
So they said, okay, Mr. Osborne, we can get you on the train, but you got to get from Clearwater to, I forget this other city I had to go to in Florida, which I did. I took a cab. And so I took a train from Florida to Washington, D.C., Washington, D.C. to Chicago, and then Chicago to, I was supposed to go to Emeryville, but after I was on the train for 4.5 days, no sleeper car, because they were all gone. It was brutal. But it was one of the worst experiences in my life because of what was going on, but one of the best experiences in my life because I literally got to see the country.
That's how you saw the whole country.
I saw literally the country by train. And so I wrote about it. I have it's kind of like a short story called Ride of a Lifetime, which I wrote, and which kind of chronicles what happened.
Well, I was delirious on day
Yeah, but some of those experiences. I have a very high
unique.
reverence for 9/11 because I was just trying to get back home, man. And you go some places in the country and the cell phone service wasn't working, and it was terrifying because the FBI we were stalled for 8 hours in Lincoln, Nebraska, because the FBI was searching the train ahead of us, which is not comforting at all.
Right.
Sure. And they would come over the overhead. Okay, we're pulling into this station. For your safety, please don't leave the platform. All that kind of stuff. I mean, it was really, really crazy. And the last story I'll share with you real quick was in Chicago. And I never forget this. It was the day Bush gave the speech, which I think was like the 12th, 13th. He gave the speech. And we pull up in Chicago in this gigantic train station. And this guy, and people were, they were profiling certain individuals at that time. It just happened. It was happening. And so this guy had a duffel bag, and he came out and sat in the middle of this train station with thousands of people. And I've never felt everybody's eyes go to this one cat. Literally everybody in the train station, because he had a bag, and he stood up, and the bag was still sitting there. But lo and behold, his daughter came running, and I tell you, 1,000 people went,
Oh yeah, in the moment.
And that just stuck with me. So, 9/11 is very important to me. You know, but obviously the loss of life was tragic. What people went through, what the country did, and we're still living in some of those decisions in terms of our privacy and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was an amazing time for me, and something I'll never forget.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah,
Very interesting. So I have one last question. So we decided to launch the L3 perspective because there's a lot of people within our community and folks we wanted to reach because they bring a lot of insight around life, love, or leadership.
sure.
Right. And I think all three of those kind of fit you just from your experience, you know, your knowledge. But I will ask you 3 words:
Okay.
life, love, or leadership. Pick one of those words and just share whatever's on your heart.
Love. Love can conquer hate. You know, we say that word and we take it for granted. Oh, I love what I do, or I love this flavor of soda, or I love noodles. You know, we say it all the time, but if you really think about what love is, it's really from the heart. It's really a spiritual thing that you feel. And so, if you have love for family, or love for your neighbor, or love for each other, especially now, we need an onslaught of love for our humanity and where we are as a country and as a people.
Yeah.
So let's spread love, man. Let's really take that to heart and be aggressive in how we love and love on each other, because there's just too much hate right now.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, we need to overcome that and just take a break and love each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you for sharing. Where can folks find you, support you?
Sure.
And then if there are any other last minute words or projects that you want to kind of share.
Sure.
This is your time.
Sure. Thank you. Well, first of all, again, man, I appreciate the conversation. Thank you guys. You've been, you know, your hospitality is fantastic, and I just really appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Instagram at Eddrick Show, real simple, at Eddrick Show. YouTube.com/@the Eddrick Show. Eddrick.com. You can get all information about me, projects, movies, things like that. Yeah. I want to mention our theme song from Blue Eyeshadow, which was done by a wonderful producer, the late Joe Guidry, is now available on vinyl.
Okay.
Starting to get into that space a little bit.
Nice.
But all things Eddrick, Eddrickshow.com, Eddrick.com. You can learn all about me, my shows, and all the stuff I'm working on. So.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I definitely, on behalf of our team, just, you know, you stepping into that creative space and creative lane and kind of leading the charge and making an impact in the community means a lot to folks who are stepping into the industry, right? Like, you come with a lot of knowledge and wisdom, and, you know, you inspire folks that you may not even know that you're inspiring, right? Folks are watching on the sideline.
Thank you.
And, you know, we started off, you know, talking about stories, and I know, again, you're clearly an amazing writer, and just how powerful, again, going back to, like, stories isn't about entertainment, right? Like, it's about healing, you know, challenges and has the opportunity and space to change policies, right? And so I say all that just to, you know, salute you for you being intentional about being in that creative space. And, you know, thank you for your time on being on our platform at the L3 Perspective.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you guys.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Congrats on what you guys are doing, man.
Thank you.
You're on the right
We're
track.
trying.
Yeah, man. No, you guys are unique, and you have the right sensibility about it, and the right reasons for doing this, and I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
All right.
So as usual, y'all, like, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. We do it for y'all. And we'll see y'all later.
Ladies and gentlemen, Eddrick Jerome.
Thank you. Peace, man.